country. In the same way, the chief minister plays a leading role in the state affairs. The chief minister, he has more power than anyone else in the state government. He or she decides how the government should work and leads the council of ministers. The council of ministers, they are a group of other ministers who help the chief minister in running the state. We'll be looking about the council of ministers in detail later. So this means that the chief minister is the real decision maker in the state. Even many famous Indian leaders started as chief ministers first. For example, G.B. Pant, Rajgopalachari, B.C. Roy, Ravi Shankar Shukla, etc. Even Narendra Modi, who is now the Prime Minister of India, he was once the Chief Minister of Gujarat. So we can say that so many famous leaders have started first as chief ministers. Before the year 1967, almost all the chief ministers, they used to belong to the Congress party. It was very rare for other parties to get that post. But after 1967, especially in recent years, many states have started to have chief ministers from non-Congress parties as well. Appointment of the chief minister. So who appoints the chief minister? The governor of a state, he officially appoints the chief minister. But this doesn't mean that the governor can pick anyone he likes. He can't just pick randomly. He has certain rules to follow. So how is the chief minister chosen? After elections are held for the state legislative assembly, that is the law-making body of the state, the party or group of parties which wins the most seats, they become the majority in the state legislative assembly. This winning party, they choose a leader and they tell the governor that who they want their leader to be. And then the governor appoints that leader as the chief minister. He then asks him or her to form a government. So this is in case if one party clearly gets a majority or a group of parties get a clear majority. But what if no one wins a clear majority? Sometimes no single party gets enough seats to form a government on its own. The governor may then ask the largest party to try and form a government. Or he can ask two or more parties may come together to make a coalition and choose a leader. That leader's name is then given to the governor, who then appoints him or her as the chief minister. So who can become a chief minister? The constitution, it doesn't specific, it doesn't list any specific qualifications. But to become a chief minister, the person must be an Indian citizen and he must qualify to be a member of the state legislative assembly. The person can be from either house of the state legislature, or he can even he can even be an outsider. But if in case he's an outsider, but if in case a chief minister is an outsider, he or she must get elected to the legislature within the 6 months, or else they will have to quit the job. The chief minister stays in office as long as the governor wants. But in reality, the The governor does not have full freedom to remove the chief minister anytime. If a party has a clear majority in the legislative assembly, the governor must appoint the leader of the party as the chief minister. If a group of parties, a coalition made an agreement before elections and wins the majority, the governor must accept the leader they chose as chief minister. In short, the people's vote, the majority decides who become a chief minister and the governor can't ignore it. So how long is his term? Normally the chief minister's term is 5 years, which is same as the term of the state legislative assembly. However, the chief minister can stay for more than 5 years too. How? As long as he or she keeps winning the elections and stays the leader of the majority in the assembly. That's how they can stay longer than 5 years. Removal of the chief minister. A chief minister can be removed in two main ways. Firstly, if he or she loses the majority in the assembly, and if there's a vote of no confidence. If the chief minister no longer has the support of the most MLAs, that is the members of the assembly, the governor can then dismiss the chief minister. That is nothing but losing the majority. So the governor dismisses the chief minister. And secondly, vote of no confidence. If the assembly passes a no confidence motion, a vote saying that they don't trust the chief minister anymore, then the chief minister and his council of ministers, they must resign immediately. No confidence motion means it's the assembly saying that they don't trust the chief minister anymore and they want him to be removed. Powers and functions. Formation of the council of ministers. The chief minister has the power of forming a ministry of his choice. The constitution gives him the freedom to select his ministers. He is quite free in his choice of ministers, particularly in case of his party, in case the party is having a clear majority in the legislative assembly. He can appoint any member or even a non-member as a minister and allocate him a portfolio. However, the strength of the State Council of Ministers, it cannot be more than 51.5, it's 15 percentage of total membership of the State Legislative Assembly. Distribution and change of portfolios among the ministers. Portfolios means departments. After the appointment of ministers, the next important function of the chief minister is the distribution of portfolios among them. He decides who will be the cabinet minister or a minister of state. He allocates the departments to the ministers. The chief minister also has the power to change the portfolios of any minister. And the chief minister also has the power to call upon any minister to quit. Then he has to submit a resignation. Chairman of the Council of Ministers. The chief minister presides over the meetings of the cabinet. He prepares the agenda of its meetings. He communicates it to the ministers and then he presides over those meetings. He can summon means call. He can call such meetings at any time. As chairman of the cabinet, he plays a key role in the deliberations held and decisions taken. Main link between the governor and the council of ministers. The chief minister acts as the main link between the governor and the ministers. It is his duty to communicate to the governor all the decisions of the cabinet. He is also required to furnish such information about the administration and legislative proposals as the governor may call for. Role as the chief coordinator. The chief minister, he has the prime responsibility of coordinating the work of all departments of the government. He has to see that all the ministers may work as a team and help each other. He also resolves the conflicts or deadlocks between two or more departments in case of any issues between them. His decisions also supersede or override the decisions of his ministers. His decision is the ultimate. Role as the leader of state legislative assembly. The chief minister is the leader not only for his party but also of the legislative assembly. His status as a leader of the majority party, it provides him with this role, the role as the leader of the state legislative assembly. In this capacity, he has to lead the house in the right direction. He also acts as the spokesman of the government and makes all the important announcements of his government. He is the chief defender of the policies of the government, leader of his party. In majority of the states' regional parties, they have come to power and are ruling the state governments. In almost all these states, chief ministers are playing the role of a leader of his party in order to maintain effective control and coordination between the party and the government. It is also his duty to work for unifying and strengthening his party in the state. Main spokesperson of the government. The chief minister is the main spokesman of the state government. Important policy decisions in the government are made public through him. Whatever he says, that is taken as an authoritative link between the center and the state. The chief minister represents the state government in various interstate bodies at the national level. He is the main link between the state government and the union government. Appointment making powers. All the major appointments are promotions are made by the governor on the advice of the chief minister. Other ministers have to depend upon the chief minister for his acceptance of their recommendations and power to dissolve the state legislature. The chief minister has the right to advise the governor to dissolve the state legislative assembly in case he finds that government cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of the constitution or in case he is likely to lose a majority. Normally, such advice is given by the chief minister on basis of the political considerations. And the advice is binding upon the governor when the chief minister still has the majority support. And in case of split in his party, the governor can, however, try to make an alternative government. Some other powers and functions include the chief minister is the chairman of the state planning board. He is also the vice chairman of the concerned zonal council by rotation, holding office for a period of 1 year at a time. And he is also the member of the interstate council, member of the National Development Council, and member of the Niti Aayog. The chief minister and the legislature. In states that follow parliamentary form of government, there are two main parts, that is the executive and the legislature. Executive consists of people who run the government, whereas the legislature consists of the people who make the laws. The executive is headed by the chief minister, and the legislature executive headed by the chief minister and the legislature are supposed to work in close cooperation with one another. As the leader of the house, he makes all important statements in the house, and whenever he feels his cabinet colleagues are not in position to satisfy the house, he comes forward to help them. He defines government policies and programs in the house, and he also faces the opposition. He communicates the views of the House to the governor, and he acts as the channel between these two, between the House and the governor. He also decides for all practical purposes the agenda of the House. But in respect of the legislature, his most important power is the dissolution of the House. The chief minister can advise the governor for its dissolution. Though the governor is not bound by the decision, but usually such an advice is accepted. Relationship between the governor and the chief minister. The chief minister and the governor should have smooth cordial relations for smooth running of the state administration. The information sharing between the two functionaries is very essential. Without having access to necessary information about the affairs of the administration of the state, the governor cannot effectively discharge his multifaceted role as a friend, philosopher, and guide to the Council of Ministers. The governor should not try to become a counter magnet or a parallel center of the power. There were many instances in the past where it witnessed the Cold War between the governors and the chief ministers. But the nature of powers available to the governor are not authoritarian. He cannot start overriding or vetoing the decisions or proposals of the Council of Ministers headed by the chief minister. The Constitution has laid a great stress on the need for harmonious relations between the governor and his Council of Ministers headed by the chief minister. Even the Sarkaria Commission has emphasized that for proper working of the parliamentary system, there has to be a personal rapport between the governor and the chief minister. One of the ways suggested to foster good personal relationships is consultations with the chief minister at the initiation of the process of appointment of the governor of the state in order to maintain smooth relations and smooth administration in the state. Hence, the governor must be consulted before the appointment. State Council of Ministers. The Constitution of India provides for a parliamentary system of government at the state level. The governor acts as the constitutional head of the state, constitutional executive head of the state. The real executive powers are vested in the hands of the State Council of Ministers, headed by the Chief Minister. The Constitution provides for each state a Council of Ministers with the Chief Minister as its head to aid and advise the governor in exercise of his functions. The State Council of Ministers, this is a group of ministers like different leaders in charge of different areas such as health, education, transport, etc. This group is led by the Chief Minister, who is the most important person in the state government. Together, this team makes decisions, plans policies, and runs daily activities of the government. So, formation. The procedure for the formation of the Council of Ministers at the state level is same as in the case of Union Council of Ministers. After each general election, the party which secures majority in the state legislative assembly, it elects its leader, and the governor appoints him as the chief minister. On the advice of the chief minister, other ministers are appointed by the governor. Normally, all the ministers are taken from the members of the state legislature. However, the chief minister can also appoint even a non-member of the assembly as a minister. In case he fails to get elected in that time, oh sorry, but even the chief minister can appoint a non-member as as a minister, but such a person has to become the member of the state legislature within a period of 6 months from the date of his appointment as minister. In case he fails to get elected in that time, he has to resign his ministry. According to the 91st Constitutional Amendment Act, the strength of the State Council of Ministers cannot be more than 15% of the strength of the Legislative Assembly. Composition of Council of Ministers. The Constitution does not specify the size of the State Council of Ministers or the ranking of the ministers. They are determined by the Chief Minister time to time based on the requirements of the situations. Like at the center, in the states too, the Council of Ministers consists of three categories of ministers, namely cabinet ministers, ministers of state, and deputy ministers. The difference between them lies in their respective ranks, emoluments, and political importance. At the top of all these ministers stands the chief minister. He is the supreme governing authority of the state. The cabinet ministers, they head the important departments of the state government like home, education, finance, agriculture, and etc. They are the members of the cabinet and they attend its meetings and they play an important role in deciding the policies. Thus, their responsibilities extend over the entire gamut of the state government. And next, we have ministers of the state. The ministers of the state, they can either be given an independent charge of departments or they can be attached to cabinet ministers. However, they are not the members of the cabinet and they do not attend the cabinet meetings unless they are specifically invited when something related to their departments are considered by the cabinet. Next in rank are the deputy ministers. They are not given independent charge of departments. They are attached to the cabinet ministers and assist them in their administrative, political, and parliamentary duties. They are not members of the cabinet and they do not attend cabinet meetings. At times, the Council of Ministers may also include a deputy chief minister. The deputy chief ministers are appointed mostly for the local political reasons. Theoretically, the ministers hold office during the pleasure of the governor. It means so long as they continue to have the majority support in the state legislative assembly. In fact, they hold office during the pleasure of the chief minister. The chief minister can ask any minister to resign, and in the event of resistance, the chief minister advises the governor to dismiss such minister. If, if he refuses to quit, then the chief minister may advise the governor to dismiss such minister. The governor always accepts such advice, and the chief minister can cause the fall of the ministry by tendering his own resignation to the governor. Responsibility of ministers. They have three types of responsibilities: collective responsibility, individual responsibility, and no legal responsibility. Collective responsibility. The fundamental principle underlying the working of the parliamentary system of government is the principle of collective responsibility. Article 164 clearly states that the Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to the Legislative Assembly of the state. This means that all the ministers, they own joint responsibility to the state legislative assembly for all their acts of omission and commission. They work as a team and swim or sink together. When the legislative assembly passes a no confidence motion against the council of ministers, all the ministers have to resign including those ministers who are from the Legislative Council. Alternatively, the Council of Ministers, they can advise the governor to dissolve the Legislative Assembly on the ground that the House does not represent the views of the electorate faithfully, and then they can call for fresh elections. The governor may not oblige the Council of Ministers, which has lost the confidence of the Legislative Assembly. The principle of collective responsibility also mean that the cabinet decisions bind all the cabinet ministers and other ministers, even if they differed in the cabinet meeting. It is the duty of every minister to stand by the cabinet decisions and support them both within and outside the state legislature. If any minister disagrees with the cabinet decision and is not prepared to defend it, he must resign. And in this way, several ministers have resigned in the past because of their differences with the cabinet. And then individual responsibility. Article 164 also contains that the principle of individual responsibility. It states that the minister holds office during the pleasure of the governor. This means that the governor can remove a minister at the time when the council of ministers they enjoy the confidence of the legislative assembly. Even if they have the confidence of the legislative assembly, even in such cases, the governor can dismiss a minister. But the governor can only remove a minister only on the advice of the chief minister. In case of difference of opinion or dissatisfaction with the performance of minister, the chief minister can ask him to resign or advise the governor to dismiss him. By exercising this power, the chief minister can ensure the realization of the rule of collective responsibility. And then we have no legal responsibility. At the center, there is no provision in the constitution for the system of legal responsibility. Legal responsibility of the ministers in the states. It is not required that an order of the governor for a public act should be countersigned by the minister. Moreover, the courts are barred from inquiring into the nature of advice rendered by the ministers to the governor. Powers and functions of the State Council of Ministers. The State Council of Ministers is the real executive of the state. It exercises vast executive powers as detailed below. Formulation of state policies. The Council of Ministers in reality, the state cabinet has the responsibility of the formulating the policies of the state. All the policies are discussed and decided upon in state cabinet. Running of administration. The State Council of Ministers, they run the state administration. The ministers perform their responsibilities in accordance with the policies of the government as approved and passed by the state legislature. The duty is to see and ensure that the administration of the state is run in accordance with these policies. Each minister has one or more departments under his control, and he is responsible for looking after its administration. Coordination function. The state cabinet is also responsible for securing coordination in the working of the various governmental departments. It has the responsibility to resolve conflicts and deadlocks between various departments. All the ministers are responsible for the implementation of the decisions of the cabinet. Appointments. The cabinet makes all the important appointments in the state. The appointment of the Advocate General, Vice Chancellors of the universities in the state, Chairman and the members of the State Public Service Commission, Chairman of various corporations and boards, etc. They are all made by the governor on the advice of the Chief Minister and his Council of Ministers. Role in lawmaking. Lawmaking is the function of the state legislature, but the minister plays a key role in this sphere. It is the ministry which really decides the state legislative agenda. Most of the bills are introduced and piloted by the ministers in the state legislature. The bills moved by the ministers, they are mostly passed by the legislature because the ministry enjoys the support of the majority. When the state legislature is not in session, the Council of Ministers can satisfy the need for lawmaking by getting ordinances issued by the governor. These ordinances they can have the force of law and can be got converted into laws from the state legislature when it comes into the session. The governor summons, prorogues, and dissolves the state legislature upon the advice of the chief minister and his council of ministers. Thus, the council of ministers they play an important role in lawmaking process. Financial functions. The council of ministers they manage the finances of the state. The cabinet really determines the fiscal policies of the state. It formulates and implements all developmental policies and plans. It manages the finances of the state in accordance with the policies and budget as prepared by the State Council of Ministers and approved by the state legislature. Execution of central laws and decision of the union government. The union government is empowered to give directions to the state governments in certain matters. The states should exercise their executive power so as to ensure compliance with the laws made by the parliament. They should not do anything which would hamper the executive power of the union. For example, railways is a union subject, but police, including railway police, is a state subject. The union government can give directions to the state executive as to the measures to be taken for the protection of railways within the state. The chief minister is vested with many powers, but the real position depends on his personality, political experience, and administrative capability. The position in the party organization at the state level, backing and equation with the central leadership. A chief minister of a single party having comfortable majority behind, he is always a very strong position. One of the factors that make the position of the chief minister more difficult is the lack of clear definition as to the relationship between the organizational and legislative wings of the ruling party or coalition at the state. Even the position of the chief minister becomes very precarious when he heads the coalition government. The chief minister of coalition government is virtually a prisoner of circumstances. So in the next class, let's look into the organization and structure, which consists of two units, State Secretariat and Directorates, in State Planning Board, Telangana. So if you have any doubts, please ask. Thank you.